Okay, today I'm re-reviewing the Solar AC6BR, a made-in-Europe solar guitar. Is it still good, and has my opinion changed after I've been playing it for some years? I'm using this guitar on a song that I'm going to release soon, and so I wanted to give an update on this guitar. And by the way, I'm not sponsored by Solar or any of the brands shown in this video. So let's talk about what's been good with this guitar, and first of all, the fret axis, as you can see, is amazing. You can reach beyond the 24th fret. These cutaways on here are just super useful, and that satin neck, very nice. There's no impedance to your hand whatsoever. And I finally got the setup on this guitar just right. I do my own setups. I'm not an official guitar tech. I'm not a professional. I'm pretty much some guy at home doing the online music thing. But my setups are okay. And maybe it's just the combination of it's finally spring, the humidity and temperature are just right, and my setup before was almost perfect, so just adjusting the truss rod some really fixed it up. This thing now plays great. I did use this on my Dust Off 2-song release. I covered some Mega Man X songs, and the setup on it was okay, but it was a bit trying, like in the middle. And so in this case, I think the temperature and humidity are now about the same as then too, come to think of it. Tightening the truss rod just a little bit fixed it up. And so from that, the playability on this is just fantastic. As I mentioned, the fret axis is great, the setup is now great. And I have been playing HSH guitars recently, so playing just a 2-humbucker guitar is really luxurious for me. I do have a slightly heavy picking style, just a little bit, so a middle single coil can get in the way. I do lower them. But coming back to a guitar with just 2 humbuckers, nothing's in the way. I do miss the position 4 clean tones you can get with an HSH guitar. But hey, the neck cleans on this are just fine, and it does have a coil split here, and it's pretty cool. It does sound good, but I do just use the neck cleans on this when it's time to play cleans. Besides that, the controls don't get in the way at all. So when it is time to switch pickups or something, it's way down here. It's in a natural place, of course, but it's not in the way. And this selector switch, I think I mentioned it in my other video too, but it's a 3-way toggle switch, but it is a pretty big toggle switch, so it almost feels like a blade switch. And then of course the Evertune. The Evertune pretty much works as advertised. It does hold things in tune, but it's not a magical system, it's a mechanical system, so you do have to retune every now and then. I find over time things do go flat. For example, I was recording with this guitar last night, working on a song, and then today I recorded the demo song, and the D string was just a little bit flat, so I had to tune that up real quick. It just took like a second or two, but still worth mentioning. And I say D string, but I am in drop C. And then on the subject of the Evertune, I don't mind the feel of the Evertune. I do kind of like it. My favorite bridge of all time is the Ibanez Low Pro, and I do of course like the hip shots and all that, but this is pretty nice. Although I do understand why some people would dislike this. Maybe you feel this part against your palm right here. And also the saddles do angle back, so if you don't like that, if you're not used to that, if it doesn't work with your palm muting style, that would be pretty annoying. Alright, and then moving on to the fretboard, the Richlite fretboard. It's interesting. My favorite fretboard material is ebony, but I don't mind things like maple, rosewood. I think they're pretty good. I have to say the feel of the Richlite fretboard is technically my least favorite, but I also don't hate it. I really don't mind using it. It is nice having the peace of mind that you don't have to condition the fretboard or anything, it won't crack. It's pretty stable. And you really only feel it when you're digging in for bends and stuff. But again, I don't hate it. It's just if I had to rank all the fretboard materials, I would say, okay, well, at the bottom of the list, one material has to be at the bottom, and it would be Richlite. But I do like how it looks. I don't mind how it feels. The frets, I don't remember what the fret size was, what it said. They do feel a little smaller than on my other Solars, but I don't mind them that much. They don't feel like small frets in general. They're not as small as on my Ibanez FRM. Those have, I guess, vintage tall or whatever they were described as. Moving on to the body shape. The body shape is really interesting. It's got this kind of carve, so you can see in the light right here, there's that contour, and it becomes super nice and thin right here, but it does have that edge. So it fits against the body pretty nicely. You do feel this edge. Over time, I think I've gotten used to it because I almost don't feel it unless I think about it. But if I switch from a guitar with a more arch top, like my Ibanez S or my RGA, I do notice it pretty quickly. And I used to notice it a lot when switching from a guitar with like an RG style body, be it the Ibanez RG or the Solar S or the Solar A series. It is nice that this does become thinner, and it does feel like I have more access to the strings because my palm usually is around here. Well, more like here, but you get the idea. And this feels really good against the palm, at least for me anyway. It is nice that the body is light too. It's made of ash. The Evertune does add some weight. I think in my other video I mentioned that it is slightly neck heavy. After playing my Ibanez S671 though, that is slightly more neck heavy. Not a deal breaker, at least to me. If you keep your arm on it, it stays still. And if you have a leather strap, it also stays still. I'm using the $10 the nylon strap, so that's kind of on me. But this is slightly better balanced than that. And moving on, let's talk about what's not perfect, because all the downsides about this guitar, except one of them, aren't so bad. So first, let's address the question you probably all have, the quality of this, because that leads into what I want to talk about, what I want to mention. The quality feels pretty good. It does feel more solid than the Indonesian-made Solars. I do love my Indonesian-made Solars though, so I'm not attacking those, I'm not knocking those. This does feel a step up in terms of just construction, playability, sound. Is it better than a made in Indonesia Ibanez? Yes, I'd say it's better than most of those. Is it better than a made in Japan Ibanez? And previously I said no, it's not. But now I think it's actually closer. A truly solid, well-built, well-put-together made in Japan Ibanez, so usually a Prestige. But there's also the Genesis collection, which is made in Japan. When those are built right, I think those outclass this just a little bit. But I have experienced a lot of mistakes and issues with some made in Japan Ibanez over the years. I've had wiring issues where the neck pickup will just cut out, which is pretty disappointing to have to fix on an expensive Ibanez Prestige guitar. I've had the neck misaligned, and you can kind of wiggle it to a better position on the bolt-on Ibanez. But if it's really misaligned, like that treble high E string is really close to the edge of the fretboard, there's basically no saving it without doing some significant modifications, and then the bolt holes don't line up, things like that. And I've noticed there's various levels of finish or oil or whatever they put on the back of the necks of the Ibanez guitars. It doesn't really get consistent until you get to the more expensive Prestiges or even the J Customs. So those Ibanez guitars with quality control issues, with mistakes, those are clearly worse than this. This is pretty good. But that being said, this guitar does have a little quirk. Now the set neck is really nice and solid. It feels seamless here and on this side, but you can feel the seam right here. And I don't know if it is getting bigger. I don't think it is. It's just a surprise every time I feel it. My thumb usually doesn't go to that spot. It's usually right here when I'm playing. Or sometimes I'm playing right here, but I usually don't play like this. But if you do play like this and you have your thumb here, so you can definitely feel the seam. So that is a little worrying. The neck hasn't moved. This stays in tune. It stays intonated. So maybe they didn't round out or sand off just where the neck meets the body on the top here. But that would really make me consider, do I want to take this out if I was going to do a live show, if I was looking to do that again? And I'm not so sure. I think I would once or twice if it wasn't too far away, if I knew the temperature and humidity were pretty similar to where I live. But if I'm truly going to go out somewhere where I've never been before and I don't know what the conditions are going to be, or if it's going to be a long set, something like that, I might just take one of my Indonesian Solars if I was looking to take a Solar. Those would be a little easier to replace too if they get damaged. They're not as expensive. But playing this feels pretty good. I do like how it sounds and I love how it looks. It's nice and lightweight. For some songs it feels even better to play than some other guitars. Probably because there's no middle pickup right here. If I don't need that sound in any of the songs I'm going to play, I might not want to bring a guitar that has that. Or I just really lower that pickup for that show. Now, the bridge, let's talk about the bridge. I said it was really great. I also said it's not magic. If you're not used to using a tool to set intonation, using a tool to tune things, set the string height, if you don't really do that, this bridge can be frustrating. It does get stuck too. This particular one hasn't got stuck when tuning, but on my other Solars, some of them have gotten stuck before. And the fix, by the way, for that is pretty easy. You just loosen the tension here at the tuner at the headstock until you're out of the zone where it holds it in tune and it just keeps going flat. And then just retune it back up, and that should fix it. But if you're not used to debugging mechanical systems, that can be really frustrating, really annoying, downright confusing. And then finally, it's not the end of the world, at least for me, but there's pretty much no inlays except on the 12th fret here. This does have, you can see, the biggest side dots on the planet that I've ever seen. So you do have those, it's really nice. If you've ever used the fretboard inlays, maybe you're in a panic situation and you get lost. You're in a high stress environment and you do need to look down. If you're not used to looking at those side dots, if you're more used to fretboard inlays, you're gonna be up the creek basically. So not the end of the world. There will be people online who will just tell you, oh, it's not so bad, just practice and know your song. And it's like, yeah, why didn't I think of that? Just know the song, of course. There are moments where things can go wrong. So that's the update on the Solar AC6. It's been a really fun and playable guitar. It looks really cool. It sounds really good. It does stay in tune pretty well. Of course, it's not perfect, but what guitar is? But what are your thoughts? Is this guitar a Solar fan's dream come true? Or are made in Europe Solars overhyped? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to continue the discussion, join the Discord. We have fun talking about guitars there. So this is YouTube. I have to say the YouTube things. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, print out every frame and mail it. Become a channel member, check out the Patreon. We've got some awesome songs on Spotify and other streaming services. Go check them out. And as always, peace.